welcome to Best Laid Plans. This is your host, Sarah Hart-Unger, and this is the podcast where we talk all things planning and planning adjacent. Today, we're going to talk about heading into a busy season, and I often do the episodes that I need to hear most. So let me just take you into my life right now and explain what my busy season looks like that I am currently headed into. Actually, let's zoom out for a second. I know that for many of you, for various reasons, the next few months are going to be more packed than average. And I think there's two reasons for that. Number one, people often have a lot of school-related activities. If you have kids of any age, anything end of year is happening. Plus, there's often even a current of planning for the next year. Like I have scheduled a meeting to figure out my kids' courses for the next year already while we're still wrapping up this year. You have celebrations, you have wrap-ups. If there's shows, there may be more rehearsals. But then it's often a really busy season in different workplaces as well. I know in the financial sector or anyone who has anything to do with taxes, April can be absolutely crazy in the United States. And depending on where you work and where they end their fiscal year, my health system's fiscal year actually ends on May 1st. So I know there's a lot of things that need to be loose ends that need to be tied up on the administrative end for that. So this is just very commonly a time when people have a lot on their calendars. But personally, I also have noticed that I have more travel scheduled in the next 6 weeks than I think I've ever had in a concentrated period ever before. And I'm not going to give you specific dates or anything like that, but just to give you a taste, we're going to Disney World. So that's super fun. We're going with my sister and of course the kids and my niece, and we're going to have a great time. We'll be home for a couple days, and then we're going to promptly leave and go to Naples with a couple of mom friends and my teens' two best friends. So that's going to be fun. Then we are going to be home for an entire week. And then there are the gymnastics Florida state competitions coming up. So we'll be headed 6 hours north to Gainesville for that over the weekend. We still don't even know the specific day. But again, that's happening just a few days after this Disney and Naples crazy week. Then I'm on call for a week. Then the weekend after that, I made the impractical decision to attend an a cappella reunion for my college. I got an email about this, and I think I talked about it on the show and was like, well, that doesn't really fit into my life right now, but it sounds really, really fun. And I texted a couple of women who I had been in this a cappella group with thinking, oh, there's no way they're going. And then I can feel fine that I'm not going to miss seeing them. But it turns out that despite one of them living in California and the other one having young kids, they are going. And so I decided to go. So after my call week, I'll be leaving late at night on a Friday and heading to Williamstown, which is a pain in the butt to get to, going to my a cappella reunion, coming home. And then the weekend after that, my husband's going to be away for several days, including the weekend. So I won't be traveling that time, but I will be solo parenting. And then the weekend after that, I'm headed to San Francisco for the Pediatric Endocrine Society conference. And then thankfully, things will kind of calm down for a couple of weeks. And then I have a really fun couples trip planned with my husband in the middle towards the end of May to celebrate our 20th anniversary. And I guess my birthday too, because it's right after that. So yes, I'm not somebody who travels for work. I don't feel like I usually have a few big trips a year, but this level of back and forth and here and there and working and not working is not typical for me. And I am honestly bracing myself a little bit because I know in the past when I've had a number of things like this in a row, I just do tend to get overwhelmed or hit a saturation at some point. So it wouldn't shock me to be coming on the mic 5 weeks from now and telling you, wow, this has really, really been a lot. But I do know that it's coming. It's all on my calendar. It's not a surprise to me. So I'm also thinking to myself, what can I do to shore myself up for a phase when I know I'm not going to have my standard routines available every day? I may have less free time. I may have different structures than I'm used to. I don't want to say I'll have no time because, I'm going to have the same amount of hours that I would have at home. But I think things are going to be a little bit less autopilot, and that can make planning routines harder to execute on, and it just makes life a little bit more complicated. So I was thinking, how can I get myself ready for this incredibly busy season? And then I thought I'd talk about it on the show in case anybody else is headed into a really packed full period. And by the way, everything I talked about, I'm so lucky to get to be able to do all of these things. I mean, none of these is anything I've been forced into. None of it's drudgery. It's all very exciting. And both things can be true. We can be really, really excited to do a lot of things, and it can still be challenging. So just in case anyone hears this and is like, is she really whining about going from San Francisco to Gainesville to Disney World? No, I'm not. I think this is super, super exciting. And my calendar honestly does spark joy when I look at it. That's just a lot of fun and a lot of connection. And I know it's going to be a lot. So without further ado, here are 10 things I came up with, maybe to myself, but maybe to others about to embark on a similar kind of busy season journey that might help us steady ourselves through this more trying time. All right, number 1. Take time to visualize what success would look like. Meaning, if I am to get through this season and feel like, you know what? I didn't get overly stressed out. I didn't get behind. I didn't feel like my inbox was eating me alive. I didn't feel like I didn't practice self-care. It's a lot of double negatives there, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what would it look like to go through this time and just have great memories and overall feel like it was a success? Take the time to actually think about that and what that would feel like. That's something that I might journal in my morning pages. Maybe I'll even write a blog post about it. But I really want to give deep thought as to like what a successful version of this type of season would look like. Okay, number 2, have a clear picture of what the layout of weeks looks like, including when it ends. So I've looked at my calendar so many times because this time frame's been so crazy. And that's why I was basically able to recite to you, I'm doing this, and then I'm home for a day, and I'm doing this, and this weekend is this. And I think that's really, really helpful. And that's only happened because I've written it out, I feel like a whole bunch of different times. I've told my friends what I'm up to. I've looked at my planner. I've put it on our big essential calendar. Like I have reviewed this many, many times. And I do think going into this busy period, kind of knowing where the ups and downs are, knowing when it ends, and that I do have kind of pretty an unscheduled June. Like I do have a call week in June, but other than that, I don't have any travel or anything really big planned. Like knowing that there is a time beyond this that looks a little bit calmer, that's definitely helpful. But just having a clear understanding of I have this and I have this, and this is going to be the craziest time, or this is going to be the time that I can recover. I think that's super, super helpful. So my number 2 is having a clear picture of what the layout of weeks look like if you're heading into a period like this, including when it's going to be over. Number 3, consider an after the storm list. When I taught Best Laid Plans Academy the first time, I had people corral their lists and go through their inbox. And I figured that people were going to have more things coming at them at a time than they had the capacity to deal with, especially if people were excavating inboxes that really hadn't gotten a lot of attention for a lot of time. And so I didn't want people to like put everything on the next week's list. But at the same time, I do recommend that most people have most of their tasks be time bound. And I've talked about that on various task management episodes. However, I think there is a time and the place for having a list that's like, after this crazy period that you know you can look at afterwards, and there are things that you want to do and maybe aren't super long term. Like they're not so nebulous that you'd put them on someday possibilities or someday maybe, but they're not things that have to get done in the next few weeks while you're traveling. So I think this can be a great period for what I call an after the storm list, where you can collect those nagging things that come at you that you want to do. And like maybe you want to do soon-ish, but you don't want to do while things are just really, really busy. And so I'm going to make an after the storm list for myself that I'm going to look at, I'd say after my couples trip in May, because I know that I'm going to have, again, a nice, I don't want to say fallow period, but a quieter period after that. And that'll be a great time to go ahead and look at that. So that's number 3, considering an after the storm list if you're headed into a phase when you know you're not going to have a lot of time for extras. Number 4. Actually, let's take a quick break, and then I'll be back with number 4.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Not sure how to tackle your taxes? Are you sweating the small print? You may be experiencing FOMO, the fear of messing up. The answer? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They help you get your biggest refund, and then we help you do more with it. With a personalized plan designed to help you hit your money goals. It's time to take your taxes to the max. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Zootopia 2 has come home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Gary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream Team. New habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Zootopia 2, now available on Disney+, rated PG. And right now you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
All right, I am back, and we're talking about tips if you are headed into a very busy season, like the season of travel that I am gearing myself up for. And the first 3 tips were to take time to visualize what success would look like, to have a clear picture of what the layout of busy season looks like in what are the busiest times and when does it start and end, and then consider an after the storm list to put tasks on there that you will just table until after the busy season. Number 4, this one's kind of obvious, but I need this reminder, is to figure out what you can simplify or delegate. During a busy season like this is the time to just make your meal plan be repeating favorites or to just go straight off of the prep dish menus. We often do that, and it's like a no thinking situation. Click that Instacart link. This is not an ad, by the way, but I'm just saying, make things as easy as you can and perhaps figure out if this is a time to even delegate a little bit more, whether it's hiring a sitter when you don't typically need coverage on the weekends, or figuring out if there's a project that needs done, if there's someone other than you that can do this. Or even things like buying some trial size cosmetics and leaving them in your luggage. So maybe it's specific to the busy stuff you have going on. Like for my travel stuff, I want to make packing and unpacking, since I'm going to be doing it so many times, as easy and streamlined as I can. That might require a small investment of buying some extra charging cords. But at the end of the day, if I can kind of simplify these processes when I'm going to be doing lots of other things, I think it'll be worth it. So figuring out what you can simplify or delegate. And I have to say, I don't feel like I've fully fleshed out what I can simplify or delegate during that season. So my example was meals and packing, but I'm going to have to think of other things after I'm done recording this episode, because I do think there are probably other things that are going to be important to make easy during this time. Number 5 is try your best not to entirely let go of your planning rituals. My nested goals system is flexible. You can skip a week and you will catch up and it will be fine. You can even skip a season. I mean, you can skip a year. I think I skipped COVID year, or I started over in 2021 or whatever. But at the same time, if you're letting tasks pile up and you don't have any processing of them and you haven't triaged them, you haven't taken the time to put them on the after the storm list, things can get more stressful than they even actually are, because then you start introducing this factor of uncertainty and what do you actually have to do and what do you have going on. So I'm going to be very careful to make sure that with all this travel, I think through when I can at least do kind of a bare bones skeletal version of my weekly plans and even my monthly plan. I don't want to skip that as we're headed into May, just because April has a lot in it. And that might look like sometimes planning to do my planning on a plane flight if I'm flying somewhere, or getting up early when we're at a hotel and spending a couple hours in the morning figuring out what's happening in the coming week. I think this is especially important because a lot of my travel is just weekend travel. I'm not taking, for example, that a cappella trip, I'm taking 0 days off. I'm flying late on a Friday. I'm coming back on Sunday afternoon. We're going to be headed right into the week. So I know that I'm going to need to spend time on that flight, or maybe that morning on Sunday, planning the week, because otherwise it's going to be too stressful to enter the week without it. So trying your best not to let go of your planning rituals, even when time's a little bit more full and there's other things on your plate, will probably serve most people well. And I certainly plan to keep my planning going. Number 6. I'm not good at this one, you guys. I need this reminder. Be brutally honest with yourself when making your lists for the month or season. I put too much in season 1. I mean, it's like an amateur mistake. And I tell people all the time, you're so excited about your yearly goals. But the thing is, a lot of times if you're trying to set new habits and there are habits that you're trying to set up for the entire year, you're actually limited in the number of new projects that you really want to take on Q1 because so much of your energy is going to be devoted towards getting those habits set up, like doing those 2 date nights a month. That was an example of a habit I wanted to do, or play piano more. And so I had sort of like project type goals that I was just excited about. Like they looked appealing. They were on my annual list and I put them on my list for Q1. And some of them did happen, but a lot of them didn't happen. And I know that I'm going to be tempted to put some of those things on for Q2, but it's not a good idea. I mean, I can tell myself right now, I'm not going to pitch 20 podcasts in Q2 to have, first of all, that's the wrong time. Like no one wants to talk about your planning rituals in the summer. So my efforts are better served later in the year anyway, when people are more excited about planning, but also in the midst of all this travel. And of course, the general things that need to happen anyway. Like I need to make sure we have food in the house and I need to record podcast episodes every week and I need to teach my courses that are already going. Like in the midst of the need tos and the extras, I'm not going to be able to like take on additional projects. So for the most part, I think I'm just going to have to be very bare bones when I come up with my April goals and when I come up with my May goals. And that doesn't mean the list will be empty, but they may include a lot of those kind of like have tos. So I can just give myself credit for the things I'm doing anyway, or kind of center around getting those things done in a way that's not stressful. So let's say I might have on my May list to make sure I've pre-recorded 3 of my podcast episodes by a certain date. So that's work I have to do anyway, but the goal centers around getting it done in a less stressful manner. So yeah, be brutally honest with yourself when making your goals list for a busy month or season. I know, as I've talked about the landscape changing in Q3 and having a lot more downtime, I can probably get a lot of like business productivity stuff done in Q3. I mean, that goes kind of against cultural influences because I think some people are like, summer, celebrate, relax. But given that my kids aren't going to have as many evening activities and we just don't have as much of that kind of here and there travel, we have some, but it's more in big chunks and less of this dribs and drabs stuff. I think that actually some of those deep work projects that I'm excited about will fit really nicely into Q3 and then even into Q4 a little bit as we go into back to school, but I don't have lots of travel in that season. So for me, I have to understand that landscape of my year and just be brutally honest with myself when these bigger projects fit in. All right, number 7, talk to your people. I mean, my husband knows that we're going to be busy. I don't know that he grasps the extent of how much we're going to feel like we're coming and going as a family. So I do want to make sure we're on the same page and we both understand, because I think the more we know, the better we are prepared for it. And then we can help each other out where it makes sense to do so. So whether that is your partner, your kids, having them know, okay, mom's going to be gone. I'm going to be gone a lot more than I'm usually gone. Like I don't take all these solo trips. I mean, over the summer, I'll be gone 0 days, no solo trips. So I feel like having them know ahead of time, like this is what's going to happen, is going to be better than it just happening and them feeling blindsided. So talking to my partner, my husband, talking to my kids, talking maybe to my work colleagues or to friends and rehashing how things are going to look. But just making sure you're not trying to do this in a vacuum. Because in addition, people might have really helpful suggestions about how to manage a busier season, especially if you seem stressed out and are asking for that kind of help. All right, number 8. Figure out where the flexibility is. Again, sometimes I struggle with this. Like I'll have something that I'm like, I want to get this done and, it has to be on this schedule. But so for example, my decluttering project, I have a cadence going with my organizer that I'm working with now. She's coming every 2 weeks, but I do think we may have to take a break during the month of April. We have one scheduled session in the beginning of April. And then we might have to just table things until May. And that's okay because there is no hard deadline as to when my house has to reach some KonMari state of bliss. And so there is definitely flexibility in that project. Or maybe we decide, you know what? My daughter doesn't want to do piano all summer. I mean, that's the example. I think she does want to do piano, but you can decide this is a time to take a break. Like, we'll probably take a break from tennis in April and May because things are going to be crazy and I don't want to be missing it all the time and paying for it, things like that. So figuring out where are the things in life that really aren't deadline driven and time bound and are more optional. We tell ourselves they're required, but we forget that lots of things we sign up for are optional. Figuring out where that flexibility is and using it. Number 9, lean into self-care when you can. And I don't really mean like get a massage, although that does sound kind of nice, especially maybe during some of my travels. But no, I more mean like sometimes it's just a matter of I need to go to bed, or I need to preserve my morning routine, or I need to go to that Pilates class even though maybe I was away. I don't know. Like, obviously, there's certainly a balance to be struck here, and I don't want to go too far to an extreme. And when you're doing a lot of things and you're very busy, you are going to need some downtime. You are going to need some rest. You might have to plan in more naps on your recovery time. And within reason and within what the other constraints of your life allow, you want to be able to do that, because that's how we are going to get through this kind of season with the vision that I had in mind, feeling good at the end and not completely overextended and overtired. And then finally, number 10, think about what your downtime will look like. Or I don't mean downtime, but your post-busy season era will look like, so that you can ensure that you're kind of ready for that. And I think in many ways that can help fuel you. So again, I'm excited for all these things, and I'm also excited to recover from them and get back to normal and do lots of the projects that I'm excited about. And I think just having in mind what the post-busy season life will look like will just be a helpful part of my mindset in enjoying it and not feeling like it's the way my life is forever and ever. Because none of us probably want to sustain that level of activity and scheduling and just like routines outside the norm for long, long term. But it can be really, really fun to do it for a period, for a season. All right. Well, this has been a very self-directed pep talk episode, but I know when I do these that there is probably somebody else who needs a similar message. I know I'm probably not the only one headed into a time with lots of travel or lots of family obligations. I mean, there are many things going on even beyond all that travel that are not necessarily podcastable, but we have lots going on, and I know you do too. And so if these tips help anybody get through it, as I hope they do me, then I'm really glad that we talked about them today. So this episode is going to air the very end of March, and I'm going to remind you that I am going to be offering registration up for Best Laid Plans Academy 2.0 very soon. I don't want to do it while I'm traveling because sometimes there are hiccups with the course registration. So I don't think my newsletter will be out on April 1st. However, it may be out shortly thereafter. I don't have the exact date yet, but it could be the 2nd, something like that. And so if you are interested in Best Laid Plans Academy 2.0, which is an interactive course that I'm doing kind of based on the material that was in the initial Best Laid Plans Academy that takes people through creating or auditing their system so that it works for them. So this course has a detailed deep dive into fixing any issues with your calendar, in creating an airtight task management system for yourself and feeling like you can be in control of your inboxes. And then we go into planning at every time horizon, from yearly to seasonally to monthly to weekly to daily, as well as troubleshooting big projects. This version is going to be a little bit more personal and interactive. Like, I plan on having people send me, what their ideal week looks like so I can give feedback, things like that. So this is not going to be a huge group. It's also a pilot. I have not done the 2.0 before, so I plan on pricing it probably a little bit lower than future versions of this. So I highly recommend checking it out. If a kind of guided experience that takes you through building or tweaking your system to make it the most effective for you, if that's something you're interested in, then this course would be for you. And if you are interested, I highly recommend signing up for my newsletter. Our Best Laid Plans Live came out on my newsletter, and then it sold out that very day. Obviously, these are different types of events, but I do keep numbers reasonable for these things that I do. And therefore, it is not uncommon to get shut out on them and then have to, wait for the next round. So if you are interested, please make sure you're signed up for my newsletter and go ahead and sign up. I would love to have you. If there are questions, you can email me at Sarah Hart-Unger with an HARTSARAHUNGER @gmail.com. And the newsletter can be found at theshoebox.com/newsletter. You can just put your name and email in and you'll be sure to get that. All right. So I hope everybody else that is headed into April and maybe their spring season is having as best a time as they can be. And I really hope it goes well for all of us. So thank you for listening. There'll be more in your feed next week, more planning fun for you. And in the meantime, I hope anybody heading into April, maybe into a busy season, uses these tips to make things run just a little bit more smoothly. And with that, I'll be back in your feed next Monday. Thank you so much for listening.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.